So she's But he's been traveling with me, he's been on the radio, he's out here. And I said when we leave here, we're going to the Live Oak Coliseum where I'm supposed to MC another event out there. Before I introduce our Attorney General, I would also like to thank Connie Scott. Connie Scott is responsible for Attorney General Brad Abbott being with us here today. Come on, Connie, let's hear it for her. I know she's got her own race. I know she's working hard, but she knew we needed something, and she got it for us, and it's Attorney General Abbott.
Thank you, and you know what? You're so right. The reason I am here is because we need to ensure that Connie Scott is the next state representative from District 34. I also wanted to be here to see my fellow patriots who are going to help us fire Nancy Pelosi this November. And retire Harry Reid from the membership of the United States Senate. And help us send a message to Washington, D.C. that we are tired of their overreaching, overspending, overtaxing government, and we're going to put a change to it this November the 2nd. You know, a lot has changed in the last 2 years. One thing that's changed in the last 2 years is that my daughter has become a teenager. She turned 13, and that explains two things. One is the gray hair on my head, and two is my renewed commitment to my Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. But something else has changed in the last 2 years. This time, 2 years ago, Abel Harrell was squeaking out a victory over Connie Scott because of the Obama tidal wave that was sweeping across Nueces County, sweeping across the country. But you know what? After 2 years of watching Barack Obama bust the budget, take over health care, do things like Mirandize terrorists, and crisscross the globe apologizing for American exceptionalism, the Republican Party is back, and we are prepared to win this November the 2nd. You know, we've had a lot of challenges that we're dealing with. One of the biggest challenges is the unprecedented mandate out of Washington, D.C. that's known as Obamacare. Obamacare does something that's never been done before. For the first time in the illustrious history of the United States, Congress is ordering you and all of your fellow Americans to go out and purchase a product. In this case, making you go purchase health care insurance. But it gets worse. If you don't make that purchase, if you think you know better than the federal government about how to spend your hard-earned money, then the IRS is going to impose a penalty on you. Well, if you think that sounds un-American, you're right. It is, and it violates our Constitution, and as your Attorney General, I aim to put a stop to it. You know, the Democrats in Washington, D.C., they stood with Barack Obama when he signed that law into effect, and they said, listen, the fight over health care is over, and it's time just to move on. Well, let me be clear. When it comes to Obamacare, when it comes to socializing 1/6 of our economy, when it comes to federal bureaucrats dictating doctors' orders in Nueces County, the fight is not over. We're not moving on. We've only begun to fight against this unprecedented federal government overreach. That's why within 1 hour after Barack Obama signed that law into effect, I filed a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Obamacare, sending a message to Washington, D.C., don't mess with Texas. But you know what? We're used to these fights against the federal government and against liberal activists. You all know about one of the victories I had for you and for all Americans a couple of years ago before the United States Supreme Court when I defended the constitutionality of the Ten Commandments monument that stands on Texas Capitol grounds. When I argued that case, I looked around the courtroom and I found, much to my amazement, on 53 different occasions there were depictions of the Ten Commandments. As I was arguing the case before the illustrious members of the United States Supreme Court, people like Scalia and Clarence Thomas, right above us was Moses holding the Ten Commandments. And so I figured, you know what, if it's good enough for the United States Supreme Court, by golly, it's good enough for the people of the state of Texas, and we won. And that monument still stands today. You know, another fight that we've had at the U.S. Supreme Court is the fight over your Second Amendment rights. What we've done is liberal activists in cities like Chicago and Washington, D.C. passed laws that put limits on Americans' right to keep and bear arms. Twice I put together coalitions of state attorneys general from across the country reminding the United States Supreme Court that the Second Amendment provides an individual right to keep and bear arms that is protected against the federal government, state governments, and municipal governments, and we've won both times, guaranteeing your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. But now we have a new challenge against a growing federal government that is challenging jobs and the economy in Texas and across the country. The federal government seems like they're working every single day to try to create new bureaucracy and intrude upon the best economy in the United States, which is the economy of the state of Texas. And it seems like a centerpiece of the fight revolves around the Corpus Christi and coastal Bend area. And it comes down to the EPA trying to dictate to Texas, to the coastal Bend area, how we are supposed to run our businesses. And when it comes to the EPA trying to impose new mandates on the state of Texas, I've got two things to tell them. One is to get out, and the other is to stay out. That's why I have 4 lawsuits against the Environmental Protection Agency telling them also, don't mess with Texas. But that is why we need you to send Connie Scott to Austin to work with me. I need, as your Attorney General, a state representative who's going to work side by side with me to help protect against a federal overreaching government and to rein in what they're trying to do to the state of Texas. We also need Connie Scott because we need people in Austin, Texas who understand that we must live by the same budget that you live by. And that is, we can't spend all the money. We can only spend the money that we have, and the money we have should be less because we should be taxing you less. I know Connie stands with me on reducing your taxes and spending less of your money. Connie also believes like I do, and that is that if you go to Austin, Texas, or if you go to Washington, D.C., the government is intended to be your servant, not the other way around. She understands the priority of where government stands and where the individual stands in relation to the government. One other thing that Connie's working on is dedicated to that I need her help on. We've seen a growing proliferation of gang violence across the state of Texas. The first and foremost duty of government is to keep you safe. I need Connie Scott in Austin, Texas, working with me to keep you safe. So I urge you, please work with me to send Connie Scott to Austin, Texas. Now let me ask you, how many of you here today have already voted? Yeah. Fabulous. How many of you who've already voted feel like you have fulfilled your duty and fulfilled your responsibility? No, and let me educate you. If we are going to have that tsunami effect, if we're going to take back Austin and take back Washington, we need you to do more than go vote. You need to get your family members, your friends, the people you may go to church with tomorrow, and the people that you work with and know, they must also get out and vote if we're going to create real change in this state and real change in this country. We have 10 more days to make a difference, 10 more days to elect Connie Scott to be your next state representative, 10 more days to take back our country. May God bless you all. May God continue to bless the great state of Texas, and keep working. Do not give up. Don't waver. Don't rest. We must prevail on November the 2nd. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Attorney General Ted Abbott. And you can say this. We've got a couple other candidates. He's going to stay around to meet you and talk with y'all. But let me say this, when he said that your job is not done, you need to check with the party headquarters. Donna McClure knows that. We need to check with the party headquarters and check out what is called ballot integrity. Ballot integrity. Folks are not beyond trying to steal elections. You need to get people out. You need to get them out to vote. You need to support those people who are supporting our communities, and you need to volunteer if necessary to work on election day guarding our vote.